Welcome back to the course on digital logic and computer architecture. Okay, today we are going to discuss about the external memory and what basically we have done till now. You just see that we have discussed about the computer architecture part. We have seen what are the basic components and how to design the processor. The main emphasis on the design of the control unit. Then computer works on von Neumann stored program principle. So what will happen? We have the main memory and CPU is going to interact with the main memory and it is going to perform its tasks according to the program. Again, we are having a limited memory space. So for that, what will happen? We are having several input output devices and those input output devices are basically connected through I/O modules, and there are three different techniques to transfer information from input output devices to the processor or to the main memory. Okay. So in a nutshell, we have seen and we have discussed all those issues, and I think by now you are having a clear idea basically what are the issues that we have to take care while we are going to design a new processor. Now today we are going to see one issue which is external memory. Basically it is related to our input output devices, and when you talk about the external memory, maybe you can think about the bigger memory space which is basically the hard disks. Okay, one of the external memory is hard disk and extensively you are using it to store your data, to store your media files and all other things. Now it is an input output device. Why you are saying that it is an input output device? Because if we are having some new information, we can write into this particular hard disk. Again, memory is going to read the information from the hard disk. So this is external memory. We are going to just discuss about the issues related to the hard disk today. Okay, when we talk about the external memory, basically we are having different kind of physical types. One is your semiconductor, second one is magnetic, third one is optical, and all of you have encountered with all those things. Okay. Now what basically you just see that we are having this particular processor and we have this particular main memory and they are connected through this particular system bus. Okay. Now we are having a limited space over here. Now currently you are having say 16 GB, somebody is having 8 GB like that. But we are dealing with much more data. Okay, so for that what will happen? We are having this particular I/O module and through I/O module we are connecting different input output devices. One of the devices may be your say storage, external storage. So what are the different kind of external storage that we are having? Some of our physical types, semiconductors memory. So basically nowadays we are having solid state storage or solid state memory, and you are basically using the pen drive. No, so this is made of solid state devices. Okay, like semiconductor devices. Okay, or again this is the main memory is RAM. This is also made of semiconductor memories. Okay, it is made of semiconductor. So generally, when you talk about the main memory, it is volatile in nature. Once you switch out the machine, then whatever contents we have there, it goes off. But when we come to this particular pen drive or solid state storage, these are basically permanent storage. Though it is made up of semiconductor devices, but still somehow we make it permanent devices. So some of the external device may be of solid state storage or maybe pen drive. Okay. Now some of these things are magnetic in nature. Okay, so like that hard disks, you talk about it, and we talk about the tape, even magnetic tape. So these are basically magnetic devices, and we are having optical devices. These are CD, compact discs or DVD. Okay, so these are optical in nature. So that means what will happen? We store the information by optical properties. So by looking into the physical types, we are going to get this different kind of storage devices which can be used as our external storage in our computer. Okay. Now what is the types of external memory? So basically we said that magnetic disks, these are RAID. Basically it is redundant array of independent disks. So what will happen? We try to give the redundancy, so that's why we are going to keep arrays of magnetic disks. Okay, so we are going to talk about this magnetic disk, and this is removable. Okay, in some cases what will happen? You can remove it from the system and you can put a new disk in your system. So like that, we are having optical, CD-ROM, CD-ROM recordable, so you can write it once, you can record it, and then after that you can read it. CD-ROM, CD type, read and write. Okay, we can do both read and write operation, and DVD also. Okay, after that we are having this magnetic tabs, which is also depends on the magnetic property. So these are the different types of external memory that we are going to have. But today we are going to slightly discuss about this particular magnetic disks, how we are going to construct the magnetic disks and how we are going to organize our data in our magnetic disks. Okay. So basically, in case of magnetic disks, it says the disk substrate coated with magnetizable material, maybe iron oxide. That means with the help of magnetic property, we are going to store our information. So it is coated with magnetizable material. Substrate used to be aluminum. Okay, so substrate used to be aluminum, but now it may be glass. We are using glass. After using the glass, what will happen? It basically improves the surface uniformity, so it increases the reliability. So it basically reduction in the surface defect, so reduce the read-write error. Buffer stiffness, better stiffness, then better shock damage resistance. Okay, so these are the additional advantages we are getting once we use the glass substrate. That means it is a plate substrate, which and this plate will be magnetized with your magnetizable material, and by inducing magnetism over here, we are going to store our information. Okay, so this is the basic property of our magnetic disks. So basically, what is the read-write mechanism? We'll briefly explain it. Recording and retrieval via conductive coil, which is called a head. So we are having a conductive coil. Through this conductive coil, we are going to do the recording and retrieval, and we say this is the head, or we call this is read-write head. So we may have a single read-write head or separate ones. That means for read we may have one head, for write we may have another head. During read-write, head is stationary, platter rotates. Okay, we'll see why it is happening. So head remains stationary and the platter rotates. Now what effects we are going to get, we'll see. Now what is write? This is current through coil produces magnetic field, pulses sent to the head, magnetic pattern recorded on surface below. So we'll see. So this is basically we will sense the current. Basically now use a shape. What will happen? I can just write a small diagram over here. So this is the yoke, and here we are having a coil. Okay. So now in this particular case, what will happen? I think you know about magnetic current generator or electric magnet. Okay, now what will happen? If we pass current through this particular coil, then what will happen? Depending on the direction of the coil, this will be magnetized. That polarity may be north and south. And if we sense the direction, then what will happen? That magnetic field generated is the opposite polarity. So this is the basically sending the electric current, and we are going to have an electromagnet. So this is electromagnet is basically used for write operation. Secondly, say through this coil we are having an iron core. So if we move this particular your iron, then what will happen? Current generates. Okay, so it is going to generate electrical current in this particular coil. Now depending on this direction of the current, now we are going to interpret our information. So this is the mechanism that we are going to use. So in case of write, what will happen? We are passing current through this particular coil, then it will generate a pulse, then what will happen? It is going to record this particular magnetic pattern. In case of read, so basically magnetic field moving relative to the coil, okay, or coil is same for read and write. Or in case of contemporary, we are going to have a separate read write. So this is the way that we are going to perform the read and write operation. So you just see in this particular case, so this is the head, basically here it is showing two defined head, one is your write head and second one is your read head, okay. Now what will happen, already I said that we are having this particular coil. If we current passes in one direction, then what will happen? It will generate a one particular polarity, maybe say north polarity. And if you pass the current in the other direction, then what will happen? That polarity of magnetism will be in a different one. If it is north pole, then it will be the south pole. Now what will happen? Say we are storing our information as a 0 or 1. We just write it like that. Or in case of 0, basically we are having a low voltage. And in case of 1, we are having slightly higher voltage, maybe around 5 volts or say 12 volts, okay. Now in this case, say if I am storing a low voltage, then what will happen? Depending on this particular potential level, say current moves in one direction, okay. When current moves in one direction, then it is going to say magnetize it with a north polarity. That means and is basically north polarity of magnetism is used to store as say 0. Now when we give high voltage, then current will flow in the opposite direction and around. So in this particular case, we are going to say that this is the south polarity, and in this particular case, we are going to say that south is going to indicate say 1. So this is the way that we are going to magnetize the magnetic surface that is below this particular surface. So this is you just see now in this particular case, when we are going to have rewrite that coils and this head remains stationary and this particular plateau magnetic surface moves in one direction. So when it moves in one direction, then what will happen? Depending on the polarity, this point will be magnetized. Now during read, what will happen? Now you just see, already I said that. Now if I move the electric magnetic field over here, then we are going to have a current. Now in this particular case also, during read operation, what will happen? This particular surface moves and head remains stationary. So when it moves, now what will happen? When this magnetism south polarity comes, then what will happen? Current, it is going to give the current say one particular direction. And when the other polarity comes, then current will move into the other direction. So depending on the direction of the current, now we are going to interpret is whether it is 0 or 1. This is the way basically we are going to store it. So while storing, we are giving electrical current. That electrical current will be used to magnetize the surface, and depending on the polarity of the magnetism, we are going to store the information. So during read, what will happen? Those magnetized surface will move beneath the head. Depending on the polarity of the magnetism, what will happen? It produces current. So current will produce in two different directions. Now depending on the movement of the current, we are going to interpret it either it is 0 or 1. So this is the way we are going to store information in our hard disk, which is basically magnetic in nature. So this is the mechanism we are going to use. You just see, just in transforming it to one form to the other form. Electrical signal, transform it to magnetic properties, store the information. Now while reading, that polarity of the magnetism will be captured, then depending on that, it is going to convert it to a current, and depending on the direction of the current, we are going to interpret it either 0 or 1. Okay. So this is the way we are going to store information in our magnetic disks or hard disks. Now we are going to say now how we are going to organize the data. So this is basically organize and data formatting, disk formatting. And most of the time you say that you are going to format your hard disks or you are going to format your disks. So basically what it does, it is going to prepare a disk so that we can organize our data. So it is basically concentrating rings or tracks. We are going to have concentric rings, gaps between the tracks, okay. So in tracks we are going to store our information, and we are having a gaps between tracks. reduce gap to increase the capacity? Yes, of course, if you are going to reduce the gap, we can put more tracks, same number of bits per track. So, this is variable packing density. Okay, same number of bits per track. So, what is variable packing density? You just see, if I am using this particular hard disk which is circular in nature. Okay, so now this is the innermost track and say this is the outermost track. It says that same number of bits per track. That means we are going to use store same number of bits either in the inner track or in the outer track. So that's why we are having a variable packing density here. In the inner track density is very high, but in the outer track density is less. So it rotates in a constant angular velocity to get the appropriate information. Okay. Now after that, so these are the tracks. Now tracks divided into sectors. So we can divide it into different sectors. So minimum block size is one sector. That means this is the minimum block size. So we say this is the addressable space which is the block size. Okay. And block size is same for all the tracks. Okay. So this is the way that we are going to say. So this is the whatever I have drawn over there. Now you can see these things. So this is circular in nature. So what will happen? These are the track 1, track 2 like that, and this is the inter-track gap. Okay, and now it is divided into several sectors. Say this is the sector 1, sector 2 like that. So we are using same information, that block size is same. So if I am going to look for this particular track, say if it is your 128 bits, then in the next track also the capacity is your 128 bits, because all are divided into equal number of sectors. So you just say this is the circumference is used to store 128 bits. This is the circumference of the next track which is smaller than the outer track. Still we are using same amount of data 128 bits to store this particular sector. So you just see that here density is more, but in the outer track density is less. Okay, this is the way that we are going to organize our data. Now disk, now it rotates, okay, and it rotates at a constant angular velocity. So now you just see we are having this particular disk. To perform the read-write operation, it rotates, and it rotates in a constant angular velocity. So gives pi-shaped sector and concentric track. It is basically track, and you just see you are going to have a pi-shaped sector like that. Individual tracks and sector addressable. So this is an individual track. We know the track number. This is the individual sector. They are basically addressable. Now we have to go to the appropriate location to get our data that we have stored there. So now we have to give the address. So basically this sector is addressable. Okay, each sector is addressable. So move head to given track and wait for a given sector. So I am having a read write head. So this read write head I am going to read it from this particular track. Then from this particular sector you wait for this particular sector to come out. So waste of space on the outer track. Already I said that outer tracks are having the less density, inner track is the higher density. So in outer track we are basically wasting our space. So now to remove this wastage, now what will happen? We can use the zones concept which increase the capacity. Now each zone has a fixed bit per track, but more complex circuitry is required to resolve it, to get the identify the proper track. So like that you just see this is one is your having concentric these things same sector, okay, but this is divided into zones. So this is the one sector, this is second sector, third sector, like that in your side also this is one sector, this is another sector. So here what will happen? In same size we are going to keep same amount of information. If say that if we are going to keep 128 bits, then 128 bits will stored in every sector, and in this particular case what will happen, you will find uniform packing density. But the addressing scheme will be a complex one, how to go and identify a particular sector. Okay. But in this particular case, we are having variable packing density. Say in this particular sector, again we are storing the same amount of information in every sector, say 128 bits, then the density is less over here, but the inner track density is more. Okay. So, but here addressing scheme is very simple. Okay. So, this is the way that we can look into it. We are having two different way of deal it. Okay. One is your zones concept and second one is like pie-shaped structure. So, in case of zones, we are going to store more information because wastage is less, but here we are having a complex circuit to identify the each sector. But this is a simple solution which rotates in a constant angular velocity, so packing density is different, so slightly wastage of your disk space, but it is easy to identify the sector and track. Okay. Now, how to find a sector? So, must be able to identify start of the track and sector. So, now we have to find out the start of the track and sector. Now, formatics already I said that marks those particular track and sector. If we say that if we are going to format our disks, basically what will happen? It will marks all the tracks that we have in this particular disk. Along with that, it is going to marks all the sectors that we have in this particular disk. Okay. Now, if characteristic, if you say how we are going to have the disks, what are the characteristics? So, it says that it is fixed or movable head. So, head may remain fixed or it is movable. We will see these things. The disk pack is removable or fixed. That means it is a fixed surface we have, or in some disk pack what will happen, you can remove it and put a new disk pack. So, what will happen in the drive, you are putting a new surface, you can store new information. It is single or double sided, usually it is double sided. In both the side of the platters we can store information. It is single or multiple platters, generally it is multiple platter. And head mechanism, either we are having a contact in case of floppy disk or you have a fixed cap. Between head and your surface, we are having a fixed cap. So, these are the different characteristics that we have when we are going to look into the hard disk. So, in pictorial form, we can visualize the hard disk pack. It's like that. If I say that hard disk pack is your removable or it is fixed. Okay, in this particular case, this is the recording surface. So, this recording surface can remove, then you can place a new recording surface over here. So, this is called removable. Secondly, head mechanism, we say it is fixed or movable. So, these are the read-write head. Okay. And secondly, these are the platters where we are going to store information. So, in this particular case, what will happen? We are going to store information in both the side. So, that is why it is saying that from sector 0, sector 1 like that, oh sorry, surface 0, surface 1 like that, total so many surfaces we have. Okay. So, 0 to 9 total 10 surfaces we are having. So, 5 platters we have. So, for every surface we are having a dedicated read-write head. Okay. So, these are read-write head, and these read-write heads are mounted to a particular arms. So, these arms go inwards or outwards. So, when it goes inward, that means we are going to read the innermost track, and if it moves outward, then we are going to read it, or we are going to access the outermost track. So, this is basically movable head. In case of fixed head, what will happen? For every track we are having a dedicated head. So, in this particular case, that arm movement is not there, that heads are stationary, and for every these things, for every track we are going to have a dedicated head. So, we are having several heads over here, but in case of your movable head, we are having one head per recording surface. So, this is the way we can visualize our hard disk pack. Okay. So, it is movable head because head can move from inner track to the outer track. Secondly, I can say this is the removable disk pack. We can remove this particular disk pack and we can put a new disk pack over here. recording is in both the surfaces, okay, like that. Now, in this particular case, now these particular platters are connected to a spindle and this spindle rotates. When it rotates, then different part of this particular tracks will come under this particular head, and basically we are going to do read and write on this particular location which is coming beneath this particular head. So that's why when it's rotate, accordingly we are going to perform read and write operation. So basically already said what is a fixed and movable head disc. So already in fixed head, one read write head per track, head mounted on a fixed wrist arm. Okay. In case of movable head, one read write head per side or per surface mounted on a movable arm. Already I have explained. Now removable or not, this is about the disc pack. In case of removable disc, can be removed from the drive and replaced with another disc. Provides unlimited storage capacity because you can store those particular discs and keep the information. Whatever required, you can again press it here. Easy data transfer between systems. In case of non-removable discs, permanently mounted in the drive. So like that, whatever hard disk drive we are having inside our laptop, it may be a permanent one because we cannot remove those particular recording surfaces. Then multiple platters. This is basically we are having several platters, and in platters both the side we can store our information. So one head per side, heads are joined and aligned. Aligned tracks on each platter form a cylinder. Now we will come to this point. So now we are having a concept of cylinder. Data is stripped by cylinder, then what will happen? Then reduce head movement. Secondly, it is increase the speed since the head movement is reduced. Okay, we'll see this thing. Now you just see this is the disc pack. Already I said we are having several platters. In both the side we can store our information. It is a movable head, so head moves inwards and outwards. Now these are the different surfaces and so these are the tracks that we have. So now the tracks that falls in the same line, say if I say consider this particular track and say considering the same tracks of each cylinder, maybe you consider the outer track of each surface, then all those tracks of all the surfaces forms a cylinder. We said this is the cylinder. In a cylinder, it is nothing but the collection of tracks, and in a cylinder, one track will come from each and every surfaces. Okay, so these are the concentric rings, and which diameter is same or say radius is same, they forms a cylinder, and we can say that now data is organized as a cylinder. We will see what are the advantages that we are going to have. Now you just see how we are organizing it. First we are having the track. Track is divided into several surfaces, and the addressable unit is a sector. So you can go to a start of the sector and you can read or write information from this particular sector, but we cannot go to the middle of a sector. So basically here transfer is your block transfer, and what is the size of the block? Size of the block is the size of the sector. Okay, so if I am going to access a particular element, particular sector, then we have to access the whole sector. We cannot go to the intermediate point of this particular sector. Now how we are going to do the addressing? So you just see, to address it we have to know the sector number, we have to know the track number, and we have to know the surface number. Say this is a particular surface N. Okay, now we are having, say this is the track, this is a surface, say J is the track, and say and this I is the sector. So once I know these three components, then what will happen? I can go to that particular point and I can work with this particular sector. So to do the addressing, this addressing, at least we need these three information. This is either surface number or head number. Now we are having two different options to form the address. So this is basically what will happen. We are going to have sector number, surface number and track number. This is one, and second one is your sector, track and surface. Now what will happen? You just see, this is my sector 0, then I am going to get sector 1, like that. We are going to read all the sector, okay, say n minus 1 sector if I am having total n sector. So after reading this particular sector, complete track, then what will happen? We have read all the sectors, that means we worked with this, all the information in this particular track. Then what will happen? After n minus 1, it becomes again 0. That means again I am coming to the 0th sector, and now you can say that now I am going to work with the next track. That means now surface number, or set track, in this particular case the track number is going to increase. That means we have completed this particular track and we are coming to this particular one. Like that we are going to access all the track, and after that, after completion of this track, now if we are having more information, then we will go to the next surface. So like that number will get changed, and finally we are going to work with those particular surface, track, sector, track and surface. But this is the way that we are discussing about this option 2. But in the option 1, what will happen? After completion of all the sector of a particular track, now next it is going to look for the surface. That means if we are working with the nth surface, then next time it will go to the n plus 1th surface, and in n plus 1th surface we are going to work with the same track. Again it will start from sector 0 to n minus 1. Now you just see, in this particular option 1, we are going to read it from surface by surface. That means you can say that we are going to work with a particular cylinder. Okay. So in case of option 1, it is addressing in the cylinder way, we are going to work with a cylinder. But in case of option 2, it is a surface wise. We are going to first work with a particular surface. After completion of these things, we go to the next surface. But here we work with a particular cylinder. After completion of the cylinder, we change the track number. That means now we are going to the next track, and we are going to the next track means we are going to the next cylinder. So these are the two different ways we can have. Now in this particular case, when we are going to access this particular hard disk, so what is the time required? So we are having several components of this particular time, and we said this is about the speed. So it is a seek time, moving the head to the correct time. So first component is your seek time. So basically what will happen, say this is my disk surface, so I am going to access the information say from this particular track. Then what will happen? Now head is mounted on this particular arm. So initially this head may reside anywhere over here. So you have to move this particular arm to bring it to the appropriate position, so that this track falls below this particular head. So the time required to place this particular head in the appropriate track is known as my seek time. So moving the head to the correct track. After that, the rotational latency, waiting for the data to rotate under the head. Now you just say you are working with this particular track, but say you are working with this particular sector. Okay. Now the starting of the sector we have to bring below this particular head, so that we can start from this particular one. So this time required to bring this particular sector to the below the read write head is known as your rotational latency, or something we say latency. So waiting out for data to rotate under the head. So access time is basically talk about the seek time plus latency time. So this is the access time. We are going to place the addressable sector below this particular read write. After that, we are going to work with this particular sector. We are going to transfer it. So it is basically transfer rate. On what rate we are going to do the data transfer. In case of read, we are going to take it from the hard disk and transfer it to the processor, and in case of write, we are transferring it from the processor to the hard disk. So this is the rate, at what rate we are going to transfer it. So depending on these things, we can find out the performance of a hard disk or the time required to access the hard disk. So this is basically performance. We are going to say access time. So what is access time? Already we have said that this is basically seek time plus latency. That means time between presenting the address and the getting the valid data. That means placing it inside this thing. So memory cycle times, time may be required for the memory to recover before next access. So we are doing one read write, again we have to go for the next access. So for that we have to give some intermediate gap. And cycle time is basically access for this particular recovery. And transfer rate at which data can be moved. So at what rate data can be moved. So this rate basically depends on the angular velocity of the disk because it rotates. So we know to complete one rotation, okay, what is the time required, and basically this time is required to access this particular track. So basically transfer rate depends on the movement of this particular angular velocity of this particular disk. Okay. Now what is the transfer time? Already I said that it depends on the angular velocity of the time. So the transfer time to or from the disk depends on the rotation speed of the disk. So now what is this particular transfer time? So transfer time T is equal to B divided by R and N. What is T? This is the transfer time to transfer information. What is the time required? That B is the number of bytes to be transferred. So this is basically number of bytes to be transferred. N is the number of bytes on the track. So how many bytes we are having in a track. And so this is basically, if you say, if I look into these things, that means we are going to consider a particular track. So basically this is a transfer time from this particular track only. Okay. So this is basically we are going to rotate. So what is the total time required to transfer it? And R is the rotational speed in revolution per second. So in 1 second how many revolution it can make. So from that we can find out what is the time required for one revolution. Okay. So this is the way we can look into it. Now the total time is now required is the Ts plus 1 by 2R plus BRN, whereas Ts is the average seek time. It is giving an average seek time because if my read write head have to move from the inner track to the outer track, so it may reside in between. So from middle to the inner track will take less time, but from outer track to the inner track will long time. So this is the way we can look at it. So it's just basically for every respect, company is going to give us the average seek time. And what is the average rotational delay? This is 1 by 2R. Basically R is your rotational speed revolution per second. So it is basically time required to rotate it for one complete cycle, and this taking these two is basically taking the half of it because it may says that it may happen that sometimes that we have to bring these things to below this particular read write head. Sometimes you have to bring it this one to the below the read write head. So it is taking an average one and says the half of the rotational time. 1 by R is the rotation time and 1 by 2R is the half of that particular rotation time. So this is basically average rotational delay, and this is T is basically B by Rn, B by Rn, which is nothing but the transfer time. So total time is your seek times rotational delay and the transfer time. So this is the time required to transfer the information from a particular track. So if it is from several tracks, then you have to slightly look into this particular issue because that simple formula may not help it, because depending on the data organization and this particular seek time is also going to take, you have to move from one point to the other point like that. So those is also going to get involved. Now just look for this particular simple example of a disk pack. It says that consider disk pack, the rotational speed, it is saying that 15,000 RPM. So rotational per minute, RPM, it is 15,000. It says that 512 bytes per sector. So this means sector size is of 512 bytes with 500 sector per track. So in every sector we are having, or every track we are having 500 sector. So it is time is given, average seek time is of 4 milliseconds. Okay, so this is also given. Now consider file containing say 2500 sectors. so that file size is 1.28 MB. You just see total sector is 2500. So in this particular case, per sector we can store 512 bytes. So the total file size will become 1.28 megabytes. Now what is the time required to transfer this particular information? Simply if you are going to put into the formula, it may not work. Now you just see what is average seek time. It says that it is 4 milliseconds. Now average rotational delay, this is 1 by 2 into this is your 2 millisecond. Time to read one sector is 4 by 500. So this is basically 2 millisecond is half of the rotation time, 4 millisecond is the total. So total we are having 500 sectors. So per sector it is required 0.008 millisecond. Okay. Now time to read the one track is basically, now again it is coming back to 4 milliseconds. So to read one track we need 4 milliseconds. Now after completion of it, say it takes 4 millisecond seek time, 2 millisecond rotational delay and 4 millisecond transfer time. So total 10 millisecond is required for one rotational time. Now where from you are going to get the next track? You have to again going to involve some seek time and rotational delay, but something can be negligible. So you have to consider all those factors and finally you can find out what is the total time required to transfer the information. Now in this particular case, if you look into it, total we are having 2500 sectors. So in one track we can have 500 sectors. So that means here we can say that we are dealing with 5 tracks. Basically information can be stored in 5 tracks. So that means total capacity of 5 tracks is 1.28 megabytes. Now here, how we are going to storing it? The stored file type has two different types. One is your sequential and second one is random. Now in case of sequential, what will happen? One after another we are storing it. So that means if I know the address of the first sector, then next sector will be the information stored is in the next sector, then next information will be stored in the near to it. But in case of random, our system is allotting randomly, sectors is allotted randomly, and it is going to place the information on those particular sectors. So if it is a random, then what will happen? For every sector we are going to have this seek time as well as this rotational delay. But in case of sequential storage, what will happen? Maybe something may be omitted, which is basically very simple, because from one track it will go to the next track, from one sector it will go to the next sector. So that means sector wise seek time is not required. Okay, but what will happen? That rotational delay may come into picture because you have to now change the track. So after every sector we have to do it. So these are the issues that we have to see. So if information can be stored in one track, then this formula may work straight away, but if it is spread over several tracks, then this is not going to work properly. Okay, so you have to look for it. So now you just see what we have discussed today. We have seen the external memory and basically we have seen the hard disk. So hard disk property wise, it is your magnetic in nature, and to store and retrieve information we are having read write head, and to organize our data, what will happen? We format the disk. When we format the disk, basically it's format to track, and every track is divided into sectors. So we are going to keep this particular information, and we are having several surface also. So with the help of this information, now we can identify a particular sector and we can retrieve the information from this particular sector, or we can write information in this particular sector. So what is the minimum addressable unit over here? It is the sector, and sector is identified with the help of surface number, in which surface we are having this particular sector, then track number, in which track we are going to get this particular sector, and after that sector number in this particular track. So these three information is going to give us the proper location of the sector, and you can work with this particular sector. Okay. So you just say now hard disk, it is an IO device. So now what will happen when we are going to transfer information from hard disk to memory? It is basically a bulk transfer, and in case of bulk transfer, what is the transfer mechanism generally we are going to use? We are going to use the DMA, direct memory access. So now in this particular case, what are the information that we have to give? We have to give the starting address of memory, then we have to give the amount of data transfer, basically data count. So these two are information related to the main memory. And for the device, now for hard disk, what will happen? We have to give the disk address or say device address, and after that sector address, because from which sector we are going to access the information. This is basically a combination of track, sector and surface. So once we have this particular information, now DMA can perform the transfer from hard disk to the main memory. Okay. So with this, I'll stop here today. Thank you very much.